Minister of Trade and Industry and Competition, Minister Ibrahim Patel, ministers and deputy ministers who are here in large numbers, which we are grateful for, the Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area, Mr. Wamkele Mene, our premiers who are also here from various provinces in large numbers, the Mayor of the City of Johannesburg, ambassadors, high commissioners, business leaders, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. I'm really pleased to welcome you all here to this 5th South Africa Investment Conference. Your presence and participation at this investment conference is a clear demonstration that South Africa continues to be an attractive investment destination despite a strained domestic and global economic climate. The South African Investment Conference has continued to evolve and to grow over the past 5 years, as you heard from Minister Patel. In 2018, we set a bold and what other people call ambitious target to raise 1.2 trillion rand in investment over a 5-year period. This year's conference is an opportunity to reflect on the progress that we have made to achieve that goal. Given the state of the economy in 2018, and given that we were emerging from a decade of state capture, many thought it was an unattainable target. We moved with speed, appointing the first of our special envoys. A number of them are here with us today, and we'll talk about them later, to engage with domestic and foreign investors on investment opportunities in South Africa. In the same year, the first ever South African Investment Conference took place. Despite economic headwinds, low business confidence, and dampened investor sentiment, the first conference generated investment pledges to a value approximating 300 billion rand. The value of investment pledges has continued to grow over the past 5 years. Since 2018, we have had to contend with a devastating global pandemic, damaging social unrest, several natural disasters, and a cost of living crisis, which has been worsened by the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. In addition, we are now confronted with the consequences of years of underinvestment, mismanagement, and corruption in our electricity, rail, and logistics sectors. Given all that has taken place in the intervening years, it is understandable that investor confidence has been sorely tested. Doubters, and there have been many, have had reason to be skeptical. We are on a long journey to rebuild our country. We are on a journey to recover the ground that we have lost, despite all the challenges and difficulties we've had. Our recovery is a mission that will take time to accomplish. We are on the recovery path, and we refuse to be daunted by the challenges that we face. We are confident that we will recover. We remain convinced that South Africa is an investment destination with significant untapped potential. And we are glad that many do see this untapped potential, and hence the presence of many of you here. We do believe that by leveraging our unique value proposition as a country and as a nation, we have the ability to attract higher levels of investment. In the midst of all the challenges we face, our ambition has not been misplaced. We do believe that the target we set in 2018 was also not misplaced either. The 4 investment conferences that have taken place to date have attracted 1.14 trillion rand in investment pledges. We expect that the investment announcements made here today will take this total beyond the target that we set 5 years ago. You watch this space today, and you will see how we will go beyond what we achieved in 4 years. While investment decisions often take several years to reach fruition, the investment commitments made to date have already resulted in substantial investment in the productive economy of our country. Almost 70% of the total number of projects announced since 2018 are either completed or on their way to completion. To date, approximately 460 billion of capital has been invested in new building factories, purchasing equipment, constructing roads, sinking mine shafts, and rolling out broadband infrastructure. What really stands out is the impact of these investments on the lives of South Africans who are now able to earn a decent living and care for their families. And the investments have spanned across all our 9 provinces, and they've covered 22 districts in our country, and a number of them have been at national level. Beyond the pledges made inside this conference hall, I've been encouraged by the investments that are happening in our economy and those that are being facilitated via Invest SA, our investment envoys who have been hard at work, our diplomatic missions, a number of whom are here today, our government departments, and especially the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. Whether it is in business process outsourcing, tech startups, the automotive sector, green ammonia, green hydrogen, or in the construction of mega data centers, local and international companies are expanding their footprint in South Africa. Hence, we have almost 40 countries represented here today. It has been a core conviction of this administration that I lead that to create jobs, we must drive growth. And to achieve growth, we must implement fundamental economic reforms. This 5th South African Investment Conference affirms local and international investor confidence in the structural reforms we've been driving to improve the business environment. Together, working with business and various other stakeholders, we identified the need for reforms that needed to be effected to move our economy forward. We have been busy at that. Some have been rather slow, some have been done on time, but we are moving forward. The energy sector remains our foremost priority. The lack of reliable energy supply weakens business and consumer confidence, but it also taints international perceptions about our country and affects investment sentiments and decisions. With a view to addressing the energy challenges that our country faces, we announced an energy action plan in July of last year. The Energy Action Plan presents a clear path to reduce the severity and frequency of load shedding, of blackouts as other people call it, in the short term and achieve energy security in the long term. The Minister in the Presidency for Electricity, whom I appointed recently, with the support of the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy and the Minister of Public Enterprises, as well as the National Energy Crisis Committee, which resides in the Presidency, is overseeing the implementation of this plan. Our immediate focus is on improving the performance of our existing coal-fired power stations as they continue to provide the base load of our energy, including one nuclear energy power station. Demand-side management initiatives will receive elevated attention, including through consumer behavior, rooftop solar and facilitating embedded generation. We have been implementing wide-ranging reforms in the electricity sector to enable private investment in electricity generation and also to accelerate the procurement of new generation capacity from solar, wind, gas, and battery storage. One of these reforms regarding the removal of the licensing threshold for embedded generation has facilitated considerable private sector investment in the electricity sector that runs into billions and billions of rands. This reform, together with measures to streamline regulatory processes, has enabled a surge of new projects with a pipeline of committed projects now representing over 10,000 megawatts of new capacity, being backed up by billions of rands of investment. Several municipalities are making use of the regulatory changes to procure power independently. We have introduced tax incentives for households and businesses to invest in rooftop solar. We have called on the financial institutions to support this effort through affordable funding for households and small and medium enterprises. And the government itself will assist poor households through a number of programs that were announced by the Minister of Finance. The debt transfer package for Eskom, together with the progress made in restructuring Eskom, will enable the necessary investment in the transmission network and in maintenance of Eskom's generation fleet. We expect the National Transmission Company to be fully operational shortly. Now, through our renewable energy program, we have signed agreements for approximately 2,800 megawatts for bid window 5 and 6, with large projects already in construction and others on track to reach financial close soon. Last night at a dinner, I met some colleagues who are already saying we've just had financial close and we are moving on with the projects on renewable energy. We recently released a request for proposals for over 500 megawatts of battery storage, and will soon open further bid windows for wind and solar, battery storage, and gas power. Now, as we work to close the electricity supply shortfall and end load shedding or blackouts in the short term, we are laying the foundation for a fundamental reform of the energy sector in the longer term. Cabinet has approved the Electricity Regulation Amendment Bill, which will soon be tabled in Parliament to establish a competitive market for electricity generation. Though load shedding will remain a challenge in the immediate future, its severity will begin to ease as some of the more targeted initiatives recently announced begin to take effect. What we are witnessing in the energy sector is an undeniable surge of investment that will not only address the electricity supply shortfall in years to come, but will propel growth and create new jobs. Even as we speak, and even as we work to improve the performance of our existing coal-fired power stations to address load shedding, we remain committed to a just energy transition, and our target of achieving net zero emissions by 2050 remains. We will implement our Just Energy Transition Investment Plan, which outlines our investment needs to support a just and inclusive transition towards cleaner forms of energy. And we will, as we have said, be doing this at a pace that our economy can absorb and can afford. We will soon be completing the review of the Integrated Resource Plan to lay the foundation for a fundamentally transformed energy landscape that transitions us along a low-carbon, climate-resilient developmental path. But it has to be a path that does not leave our people behind. We will undertake this just transition, as I said, at our pace, as we can afford it, and in a manner that advances our developmental objectives and ensures energy security. In the long run, investment in green energy will be a huge boost to economic growth. There are indeed opportunities in this crisis, including for the local manufacture of solar panels, batteries, and there are a number of South African companies that are already manufacturing batteries of a sizable nature, as well as inverters, and the use of our unique natural endowment in resources like platinum and vanadium. This will open up new opportunities for employment and the skilling and upskilling of workers, especially young people. We are equally focused on addressing the crisis in the logistics sector. Transnet's railway and port constraints are significantly affecting the mining, agriculture, forestry, automotive, and manufacturing sector. We are prioritizing port and rail efficiencies as part of the structural reform process that we have embarked upon. Our new national rail policy provides for third-party access to the freight rail network, which will allow private rail operators onto the network to increase investment and improve efficiency. To facilitate third-party access, Transnet is establishing a separate infrastructure manager for the rail network. In the interim, Transnet is implementing a range of measures to arrest the decline in performance of the freight rail system, including to increase the availability of locomotives for key corridors. And we're in the process of resolving a dispute that has been going on for quite a while. Transnet is also in the process of establishing private sector partnerships at Durban and Ngqura container terminals, which we expect to be concluded in the coming weeks. Significantly, we have agreed with key stakeholders to establish a National Logistics Crisis Committee to drive the implementation of a comprehensive roadmap for the freight logistics sector. In the usual South African tradition, I have met various sectors of the logistics industry, be they miners, be they auto workers, auto producers, and I've also taken time to meet the workers and hear their views, and the views that are coming through and the proposals and the suggestions are the type that are going to enable us to resolve the challenges that we have. Just as the private sector resource mobilization fund is providing support for the Energy Action Plan, we are greatly encouraged by indications from business that they are prepared to support government in our efforts to fix the logistics system, working with other role players. We are confident that working together with the private sector and organized labor, Transnet and government will be able to overcome these constraints to improve efficiencies. Immigration reform has long been cited by many businesses as an area of concern. A number of businesses want to bring their executives, and they've had quite a number of challenges. Today, we are able to announce a significant overhaul of the work visa system that will provide a further boost to investment. This includes decentralizing the adjudication of visa applications to foreign missions and streamlining application requirements to reduce the time frame for obtaining a work visa. We will introduce a trusted employer scheme for qualifying companies and establish a points-based system to provide more flexible pathways for skilled applicants in line with global best practice. We will introduce new visa categories for remote workers and startups to attract dynamic entrepreneurs and promote spending in our economy. In addition, we will be expanding the e-visa system to include an additional 20 countries over and above the 14 that are currently eligible, and will extend the e-visa system to cover new visa categories such as study, business, and intra-company transfer visas. Now, these reforms will enable us to attract skills and investment and create jobs while protecting and promoting the employment of South Africans. As we reform our visa regime, we're investing in the skills development system to ensure that we produce the skills that our economy needs. The National Skills Fund will soon launch a new model for demand-led skills development, which will provide 800 million rand to fund training for unemployed young people in digital skills. Minister Blade Nzimande is working on this and is going to make this happen. The key innovation of this model is that payment will be linked to placement of young people in employment as opposed to training alone to incentivize improved outcomes. The Pay for Performance Fund is designed to crowd in funding from multiple sources, and I would like to call on the support of the private sector in taking this model to scale. Crime and corruption continues to hamper South Africa's development. To address this grave challenge, specialized multidisciplinary task teams have been set up by the police to tackle crimes of economic sabotage, such as violence and extortion at construction sites, illegal mining, infrastructure vandalism, and cable theft. A number of arrests have already been made, followed by prosecutions and quite a number of convictions. This steady progress is important as we strive to break up organized crime syndicates. Our hard work to rebuild state institutions is bearing fruit. The South African Police Service, the Special Investigating Unit, and the National Prosecuting Authority, Investigating Directorate, is making notable progress in dealing with cases of serious corruption. This work has resulted in arrests, asset forfeitures, successful convictions, and the recovery of misappropriated funds. Supported by data provided by the South African Reserve Service and the Financial Intelligence Center, a multidisciplinary fusion center is helping the NPA to successfully prosecute corruption-related offenses and unravel complex financial crimes. Since its inception, the work of the Fusion Center has led to the preservation and recovery of almost 2 billion rand in criminal assets. These developments highlight the importance of South Africa's efforts to be removed from the Financial Action Task Force grey list as soon as possible. Our country's inclusion on the list of jurisdictions under increased monitoring is intended to raise standards of compliance in our country. Both our banking sector and our anti-money laundering legislation already meet FATF requirements. We are working with FATF to effectively address all outstanding deficiencies and strengthen the effectiveness of our anti-money laundering as well as finance of terror financing. Yesterday, I met with business leaders from some of South Africa's leading companies to discuss the challenges that are holding up growth in our economy. We agreed to undertake practical joint action in 3 immediate priority areas: in energy, logistics, and crime and corruption. In doing so, we will be building on the collaborative model that we used so successfully in managing our response to COVID-19, but also in our vaccine rollout, where we collaborated excellently. We are confident that if we can address these 3 issues, we will be able to make a contribution, amongst other things, to turn our economy around and unleash its full potential. This 5th South Africa Investment Conference marks the end of the first phase of our investment mobilization drive. As South Africans, we have always believed in our country and its great promise. We know from our engagements with you as investors that you see this potential too, a potential that is evident in the investment that we continue to attract. And that is why so many of you are here. It is this great promise and potential of South Africa that you see, and for us as South Africans, it is this great promise that keeps us going and that keeps us working at the problems that we have. South Africa's first country investment strategy is being finalized. It will outline priority areas and sectors to advance our country's economic interest and will be driven at the highest level with oversight provided by the presidency. Investment in our economy is not just about the amounts you have seen on this stage over the years. When we expand the lens and take in the aggregate picture, we see some encouraging trends as well. Following the devastating impact of COVID-19, total fixed investment in nominal terms increased from 756 billion in 2020, rand that is, to 811 billion in 2021 and to 933 billion in 2022. So there's upward movement. From historical data, we know that total investment in our economy over a 5-year period comes in at roughly about 4 trillion. Now, here at this conference, we have sought to mobilize, working together with you, a portion of that total investment. And this has been a collaborative effort on your part. Building on this baseline, we will work towards a new target. As I announced in the State of the Nation address in February, We're now setting a new target to mobilize approximately 2 trillion rand in new investments over another 5 years period between now and 2028. The investments emanating from the 4 investment conferences held to date have stimulated industrial, technological, and institutional modernization in our country. These investments have supported the expansion of human capital and knowledge transfer and created more jobs and learning opportunities. Talking about expanding human capital, I had occasion to talk to the head of Google last night, and the attraction they have seen to South Africa, and to come here and invest and expand our human capital has been based on the fact that they see South Africa as an investment destination. With the achievement of our 1.2 trillion target today, we now cast our collective eyes up onto the horizon. With your support, with your investment, we can realize more growth, offer more opportunities, and create even more jobs. As we work with dedication and focus to overcome our immediate challenges, let us not lose sight of the incredible promise of our country, South Africa. I look forward to our deliberations in your getaway groups today, and also to the new investment pledges that will be announced. And I've heard that there are quite a number of exciting investment pledges that are going to be announced today. So this conference is significant, it is meaningful, and it is a conference that is taking South Africa forward. And I'd like to thank you for your presence here, but more importantly, I'd like to thank those who are going to announce their commitments. I thank you in advance, knowing that you make your commitments seriously, having discussed them in your own companies, and you look at growing your own companies, and also for us, creating more jobs so that we can address the issue of poverty and inequality in South Africa. So welcome to this conference, and have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.